All right, free radicals, welcome back. My name is Dave. This is the Radical Independent. It is Sunday, November 13th, 2022. I don't usually do videos for this channel on Sunday, but breaking news, folks. Breaking news. According to Reuters, about an hour ago, Democrats keep control of U.S. Senate and crush Republican red wave hopes. There is no red wave, people. There is, and I'm right now in the House, it's 211. That's how many representatives currently the Republicans have, 211. And mysteriously, they're still counting votes. They're still counting votes. Something is wrong. It's been wrong for a long time. If you watched the other channel I do, jokingly or not really jokingly, just haphazardly, I said, hey, today is selection day. Go out and pretend, go through the motions and pretend. Look, I'm not going to stop voting. I'm not going to stop voting, but I do think that this is ridiculous. You know, if it were up to me, there'd be third-party candidates. There'd be all kinds of choices. But you've got just millions and in some cases even billions of dollars being spent on campaigns. And I'm not sure what the motivation is anymore. It's just for the elite. It's just for the executive above the executive who is doing whatever they want, making people believe things that aren't true. You had a guy, again, and I already said this in a video, you had a guy who couldn't finish sentences and said, good night, everyone, you know, was his opening statement at a debate. Again, not lifting up the other guy who was in the race because he's a globalist. The other guy's a bigger globalist. And so you had a globalist against a lesser globalist, and the globalist wins. You've got proportional voting in these large urban areas that are now controlling the fate of the United States, which is not representative government. It's not a republic. It's mob rules. It's winner take all. It's, hey, if you like the politics of Philadelphia, well, that's what you're going to get now on the East Coast of the United States, minus a few places. You know, maybe like West Virginia and Alabama and Florida. Obviously, Florida, I'm fortunate I live in Florida. My advice is to act and work locally. Act and work locally and try to persuade the people around you that it's time to break those bans that the founders spoke of. The Declaration of Independence, like, hey, it's time. These people are tyrants, you know, and they just say crazy things, and you sit there and you nod your head at the headlines like and I don't nod. I'm like almost just in disbelief, like, yeah, of course they're going to say this. So here are some headlines from Reuters this morning. I don't read Reuters. They talk about Biden, who struggled with low approval ratings. Biden struggles with consciousness. He struggles with the English language. He struggles, you know, trying to shake hands with imaginary people. This is becoming a nightmare. This isn't just a joke anymore. This is a nightmare. And I don't know how much, see, what's happening to me, and this is probably what they want. I'm just going to be like, you know what? I don't care about national politics anymore. They've made it so it doesn't matter. They've made it so, yeah, this was supposed to be a red wave. Now, I was hoping that there would be some gridlock in Congress, but no. So the Senate is now going to be controlled by Democrats. The White House is controlled by Democrats. How ineffective is the Republican Party? It's very ineffective, yes. But there were people saying, I've had enough. I mean, you could hear it, you could feel it. So then you start to think, okay, so it was just an illusion. And everyone made you think that so they could then lower the expectations. And look, Democrats, aren't they amazing? Aren't these Democrats amazing? Isn't Chuck Schumer? It's a vindication. Chuck Schumer says it's a vindication of President Biden. Wow. And so, and then the Republican Party stoking fear and division. No, these were Americans who thought, hey, maybe I'll get in the red car and see where it goes. And it ends up going nowhere. Sorry, people. Sorry. It says, however, Republicans remained close to seizing control of the House of Representatives. So let's say the Republicans actually, they probably won't, but let's say the Republicans seize control of the House. They have 211 representatives right now. I think you need what, 218? So you need 7 more. And we've been counting now. How is it that you're running for the House? That's not a big vote to count. I don't care what state you're in. That's not like a presidential election. You're not counting like hundreds of thousands of ballots. You're probably counting 30 or 40,000 ballots, maybe a little bit more in some of the bigger states. Either way, you should know by now who is the winner and who's the loser. You should know. But okay, let me get to that. So say the Republicans win. How many Republicans in the House of Representatives are going to be dedicated to stopping the current agenda? Like, say, writing blank checks to Ukraine. How many? I don't know, like 5, 10? I would say about 5, right? Thomas Massey, if he's still in there. I don't know how he did. There are a couple of people, Matt Gaetz, who everybody hates, right? He tends to be a good vote on not funding, endless war. And I focus on this because that, to me, is demonstrative. It demonstrates like what our priorities are as a country. We're going to send money over here. We're going to give money to the Azov battalion because we like them. They're just great people. And that's what the media tells you day after day after day. And you can dislike Putin all you want. That's fine. You can dislike Putin. My point is, this is just ridiculous that these are the priorities. Even if you're a progressive, like a real progressive, wouldn't you want that money to take care of people at home somewhere? And aren't you against war? Are those two concepts? Aren't those things like, we can argue about the fact that we don't have money and that you're just printing it. That would be me as the libertarian going, hey, Federal Reserve, anybody? And is anybody going to do anything about the Fed? No. Is anybody really going to do anything about what's happening at the border? As a libertarian, I say immigration is good. However, this level of immigration and the nature of it and the fact that we don't have a handle on who's actually coming into the country, that is kind of a big problem. Because again, I don't let people into my house without knowing who they are and what their motivations are. And it doesn't mean I want to track them. Doesn't mean I want surveillance on them. I want them to have rights just like American citizens have them. And I want them to be productive and happy and peaceful people, prosperous people. But then we've got, fentanyl and all that. So that's, it's a crisis. Read any police report, night after night, and you're going to find that we have a substance abuse crisis in this country that goes way beyond the norm. And that's not going to change. And again, I'm all for you do what you think you should do. This is what you want to do to yourself. You have the right to be stupid. However, it starts to get a little bit fuzzy when it's creating violence or it's creating chaos. And I'm really for the non-aggression principle. And if people become aggressive, then those people probably need to be restrained somehow. And as much as I don't want to take stuff away from people, we're in a real dark place with that issue. And I think we all need to focus on it and not be so dismissive of it. If we're more, freedom of whatever, believe me, freedom of choice all the way around. Yeah, if this is what you want to do, go ahead and do it. I may disagree with it, and you could say that all you want, but it becomes a little hard to argue when you're seeing such carnage and the statistics, especially in these cities. All of these cities, by the way, that voted in lockstep for more. Like, don't turn off the spigot, man. Keep the flow going. So here are updates from Reuters. I find this fascinating. So Biden accepts resignation of top U.S. border official Magnus. Okay, so I know some Border Patrol people personally. They're good people. They're like, yeah, we're supposed to detain people. We catch them and we let them go. All right. Number one, it's a waste of resources if you're going to catch them and let them go. Why catch them in the first place? It's just a stupid, you're wasting resources. What's the point of catching them? Here's the second. Election denier loses Secretary of State race in Nevada. Now, notice how the language has officially been co-opted. This is Reuters. And they put it out there. Oh, election denier. You mean somebody with questions? Somebody with questions about elections. They become an election denier. Hillary Clinton was one of them. Al Gore was one of them. I mean, there have been people throughout history on either side of the aisle. Now, all of a sudden, though, if you question it, you're labeled as an election denier, like a Holocaust denier. Like all of these denier things that have just become, you're a science denier. How's that working out? No, I'm a skeptic. And I'm into science. That's why you do more research. You don't do less. You do more. You don't shut down debate and discussion. You have more debate and discussion. You don't have less speech. You have more speech. Get this one. U.S. COVID public health emergency to stay in place. Wow. So we are about to get to the 3-year mark on this. The 3-year mark of the new normal. It's here. And we are going to keep the public health emergency in place. Even though the corpse a few weeks ago said that, hey, it's over. It's over. We're still dealing with COVID, but it's over. No, it's not over. That to me is an incredible level of power and authority that continues to leverage and to create public policy in this country that is destroying business, destroying freedom. One thing about Ron DeSantis, when he gave his speech, he used the word freedom a whole bunch of times. And it was a stark difference from anyone else's, victory speech. And DeSantis is not perfect. And I'm not selling him as anything, as presidential material, because I think the whole thing, if he were to get to the presidency, he would be under control of the executive. They're all under control of the executive. If he tries to push back, I'm sure his life will be absolutely miserable. And, he's got a family. I want him to stay as Florida governor and become even more focused on freedom, even more focused on public health policy. That's what I want him to do. This stupid crap about Trump and DeSantis, who cares? I'm at that point. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Because here's the reality of that. If you're a Republican and those two guys are fighting it out, and that would be a death struggle between, the populist sort of circus atmosphere of Trump, the insults and all that stuff he does, with this sort of mild-mannered but very serious politician who really knows stuff. Was a Yale graduate and went to war in Iraq or Afghanistan. I can't remember which place he went to. But the dude has had this almost flawless career going up the ladder and doing it in the traditional political way where, you know, people love Trump because he came out of nowhere and did whatever. But at this point, folks, if that becomes a cage match, the Democrats going to win. And the Democrats, look, I think the Democrats are going to win from here on out. And that's another issue. They'll put up Gavin Newsom, and then all the people who didn't like Biden are, oh, Gavin Newsom, wow, he's our man. He's going to get this agenda passed. And you will have radical stuff that was probably scheduled for 2030. You'll have that bumped up to 2025. Seriously, it's just, it's coming. It's a freight train coming down the track, and it's up to the states it's like a hurricane. You're going to batten down your hatch if you're in a state that has a little modicum of freedom, just a little bit. Florida has some, not everywhere, and it's not perfect, and it's not the libertarian view that I have, but it's better. It's way better than what I'm seeing out there. So the COVID emergency stays in place. Incredible. And who decided that? How did that get decided? Finally, U.S. judge rejects Biden's administration's LGBT health protections. So judge has rejected Biden's LGBT health protections. I was going to say projections, but it's protections. I'm sorry, I'm struggling here. I wonder what those health protections were and why a judge, I'm sure it'll get appealed and it will go up the ladder. If this has to do with so-called gender affirming care, that's an interesting defeat, because I'm thinking that stuff is on the fast track, and it's barbarism. I was looking for a word. It's pure barbarism. I'm sorry. It's child abuse, barbarism, however you want to look at this. And I'm not sure what these health protections are. I'm just thinking out loud, looking at the headline and trying to read and trying to do the Orwellian translation from Orwellian to English. That's what I'm trying to do, the Orwellian to English translation. So it's so dark. It is so dark. And if you believe in freedom, liberty, free markets for free people, private charity, like positive, good charity, and not government mandated charity, it's a dark day, and it continues to get darker. And yeah, the Republicans, they're always a little bit better to me than most of what the Democrats are. Like 99.9% of Democrats are bad. And I would say about, I don't know, 90%, I'd go maybe 91, 92% of Republicans are bad to some degree. They're less bad, but they're bad. And then there's maybe 8% of the Republican Party that are trying a little bit here and there, but they don't have the support. So they end up being very lonely out there. And then the media just attacks, and even the establishment wing of the Republican Party. First thing the establishment did is build up Ron DeSantis, which scares me, but they hate Trump so much. That's their goal, is just to get rid of Trump. And I'm okay with Trump saying, you know what, maybe I shouldn't run for president. I'm okay with that. I don't want circus. What I want is focus on freedom, focus on issues, focus on stopping the blank check writing that's going on to Ukraine. Nobody's going to stop that. And by the way, even if the Republicans win the House, the gravy train to Ukraine continues. You will get bipartisan big league support for funding that never-ending war. And then, of course, we are, just basically ramping up to a larger conflict with Russia, World War III, whatever you'd like to call it, nuclear. Hopefully people just say, you know what, we'll talk about nuclear, but we're not actually going to do it. I just don't have a lot of faith in anything right now. So it's a black-pilled Sunday here, folks. And I don't know how you feel. But and I'm not even a Republican, and I'm looking at this going, wow. So people like inflation, they like high interest rates, they like people who are in government who can't complete sentences. They like that. They think it's cool. They like guys who need to read a teleprompter in order to, respond to questions. They think that's good. Look, I have lots of compassion and sympathy for people in these positions, believe me. But there are certain things that you shouldn't be doing. And again, if you're given a choice, you've got a globalist versus a hyper globalist, and you take the hyper globalist, I guess the people voting are saying, well, this guy's going to make sure that that gravy train really runs on time, where this other guy might slow it down a little bit. And that's, to quote Howard Phillips from the year 2000, ran as, I believe, the Constitution Party candidate, said, you got two cars going over the same cliff at different speeds. And right now, that is so true. And it's getting worse. And, some people are like, hey, this is good. It's going to speed up the demise and the destruction of the United States. So that's good. So then maybe a state like Florida will just say, okay, we've had enough. We're out. Seriously. If people aren't talking about secession right now in certain areas of the country, if they're not saying it out loud, and I don't care, you're going to get destroyed by everybody. The media is going to say, oh, now these states, they don't want to be a part of this anymore. Well, that's crazy talk. It's not tinfoil hat. It's the Declaration of Independence. Go read it. Go read the Declaration and the Constitution. All right. Right. The bans, they talk about the bans. They need to break those bans, those bonds or bans, with a tyrannical and unreasonable and unrecognizable form of government. Yeah, we are right there. We are right there. So again, you got to work locally. You got to focus on your problems, whether that be, your town council, your school board, maybe your state representative, maybe your state senator, and the governor of your state, who is like, the president of your country. That's the way you have to look at it. DeSantis is already president of a very big, booming, and powerful state. What he could do now is go more based, more freedom, especially in light of this news of the public health emergency staying in place. I need a guy like DeSantis to come out and say, whoa, we're not doing that here. You guys do your own thing there. You like all this, fifth booster stuff, you go ahead and do it. But we're not doing that. In fact, we're advising that you don't do it. We'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll see. I would rather have him stay and not run for anything, because running for that office right now, to me, is a joke. And unless you can seize power from, just call it whatever it is, the executive that's running the show, until you can shut that down, which I don't know how you do unless you have a military coup. Seriously, you need a military. It's like a third world country. You would need some kind of, the military would have to rise up and say, you know what? The Constitution right over here, we believe in that document, and all of this stuff is post-constitutional. And either we're going to have the Constitution or we're not going to have the Constitution. And if we're going to have it, then these people are criminals and they need to be arrested. I don't think it's going to happen. Nobody has the will. And people, unfortunately, the general population, aren't smart enough. They're not smart enough. They don't know how this whole thing is supposed to work. So that's my video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to support me over on Patreon if you haven't done so, for $1 a month. It helps this channel. You can check out my other channel called Real Music Observer while you're over there. Completely different. Although I do stray into this stuff. I did yesterday pretty handily with the DeSantis-Trump cage match that is supposedly coming, which means the end of the Republican Party as we know it. That's why I'm a registered libertarian, people, because you know what? I just don't want to be part of the car wreck anymore. Anyway, you can check me out over there. Check me out over here. Share the videos and keep watching. And thanks for being here. And I will